All right, everybody. Welcome to April. It's April 2nd. It's Tuesday. In the weather office, we're talking about, a pretty big April snowstorm. Could actually end up in the top 10 of all April snowstorms when it's all said and done. I was kind of just looking at some numbers. Our snowiest April storms. Here, Julie, I don't know if you can get tighter in here, but the snowiest April storm, 16 inches back in 1922. We had a 16-incher in 82, another one in 1882, and then 15 inches, 13.7, 12 and a half, and 11.7, 11.6, 10.9, 10.7. The most recent one on this list was 2017. It was a two-day storm, March 31st to April 1st. So it was the April Fool's Day storm, and it gave Portland 11 inches. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up somewhere on this list in the top 10. I would be surprised if we're top 4, which is 15 inches or higher. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's a foot, and that would be around 5 or 6 on the list of top 10. And it's possible we don't even get to number 10. Number 10 on the list is 10.7 inches. So I'd say right now we're in an 8 to 12 for Portland. So Weather Service has put out winter storm watches. Not everywhere. North and coastal York County are not included. In this area, there's a really good chance of 6 inches or more. And a lot in this area will be closer to a foot. And in this area in here, it's more like a foot and a half. But I also think that there's a pretty solid chance for 6 inches here and also up in here too. So even though you're not included in those winter storm watches, you may at some point be included or upgraded to from an advisory to a winter storm warning, something like that. You're not going to get out of this unscathed. You are definitely going to see some snow and some rain and all that kind of stuff. And then farther northern Maine, you're farther away from the storm, so it's more of a lack of moisture in that spot. This storm is coming from the Midwest, and it's going to redevelop into a nor'easter, coastal storm. We haven't had many nor'easters this winter. We've had a lot of sou'easters, which is winds from the southeast. And nor'easters are winds from the northeast. When you get a northeast wind, you can kind of lock in some cold. Southeast wind, it brings in some warmth. And if you recall, we had like 3 or 4 of them from late December through February there, and 2 of them were highly destructible. Those were the 2 that, pretty much destroyed our coastline with that coastal flooding. So that was our winter, or lack thereof. And now we're getting into a winter pattern as we want to change. We want spring now. I think a lot of people have kind of thrown in the towel at this point, and they're ready to do some warmer weather things, whether it's gardening or playing golf, whatever you do to, with your recreation and stuff like that. So this is definitely, annoying, a nuisance, a little speed bump, or maybe a big speed bump in the road. But the great thing about spring storms is they always melt fast behind them. Even with, a foot and a half of snow on the ground from this one storm, that'll still melt pretty quickly. It just takes a little sunshine this time of the year. The sun angle's so much higher, so much stronger. So, yeah, it's going to be impactful on Thursday especially, but, don't let it bring you all the way down into the deep, dark doldrums, because there is hope on the backside of this, and it is going to turn nice by the end of the weekend. All right, so that's the winter storm watch. Let's just go over a quick timeline here before we get to snow totals. This will be moving in tomorrow afternoon. Temps tomorrow are going to be like 38 to 42, right around 40 degrees. So as the precip arrives mid-afternoon, there'll be wet flakes and cold drops. You'll drive home, it'll be totally fine. Now, you may have flakes splatting on your windshield. You may have some reduced visibility because of snow, but the roads will be wet all the way, through sunset. So I think you get home fine with just wet roads. It's after that, when we're at night and the storm is strengthening, so it starts to manufacture its own cold and bring cold from aloft down to the surface to drop temperatures. And because we don't have the sun, it has set, There's no way to keep things mild or keep things warm, keep it above freezing. So as we look at after 6, 7 o'clock at night, there you go. This is a little after midnight. You got 33, 33, 33 along the coast, but inland you have 31, 31, 31, 30, 30, 20s up in the mountains. So it's going to be snowing, but with temps slightly above freezing most of the event along the coast. That's why I don't have a 12 to 18 along the coast, because the ratios are probably not going to be as efficient as they are inland, where it's 31 or 28 or 29 or 30 degrees. So this is Thursday. We're cranking out snow. This is really the heart of it all. This is when the winds are the strongest too. Thursday night, the storm, while in the Gulf of Maine and stalled there, weakens a little bit, and it starts to fill in. And because of that, it's not going to be strong enough to keep the mild air out. And we're going to see our temps creep up a little bit, and that's going to make a huge difference. 32, 32, 32 now interior, and mid-30s along the coast. So after Thursday night, while it's still real crummy around here Friday and Saturday, even though it may be snowing at times, I don't think it really does anything. I don't think it's going to be like noticeable on the pavement at all. But obviously, getting a lot of snow on Thursday is going to be problematic. So it's really Wednesday night, Thursday into Thursday night, and then after that, it stays crummy for 2 days, but the impacts are minimal. All right, let's get to the snow map. This thing. This was a tough one to make too. I mean, this is probably one of the harder ones to make this winter, and also one of the largest ones we've seen this winter. So let me just back this up a little bit, get that off there for a second. So there's your interior where the ratios are good, the temperatures are a little colder, 12 to 18 plus. And it's like Freiburg, Bridgeton, Naples, Parsonsfield, Keyser Falls, on over to Conway, North Conway. This is your jackpot area, which is typical for nor'easters, right? The coastline is the wild card. The coastline still has the greatest uncertainty. Do we mix with some rain? Do we mix with some sleet? Still a question mark. Regardless if we mix or not, say it is all snow, I still think the ratios are not as good because of the temp being like 32 and a half or 33 degrees while it's snowing really hard. It's just not going to accumulate as well as it will over the interior where it's slightly colder. Now, I got a feeling, we'll get a measurement out of Portland that could be 12 inches, and we'll get another one that could be like 7 inches. And it all depends on where you measure with spring storms. You measure on your driveway, it's going to be way different than if you measure on your picnic table out back. That's wood and elevated, and the air underneath it's a little colder than the ground is right now that's already started to thaw, or the pavement that was baking in the sun for the last couple of days, for that matter. So it really depends on where you measure. So I think we're going to have a wide range of numbers. But we should see like islands and peninsulas that jut out farther into the water, probably in a 4 to 8, either side of 6. But Portland, Route 1, right along Route 1 is probably 8 to 12. So Portland right now, you're an 8 to 12. In Bangor, you're almost a 12. And then Augusta, Lewiston, and you're 12 plus. That's kind of how it looks right now. A lot hasn't changed. This is still my thought process that we're going to have a tougher time to accumulate on the coast, but still significant. And inland, we're talking about big numbers. And all of this is going to be heavy, wet snow. So we get that cling factor on limbs. Some of them are already cracked up there, okay? And they're waiting for a gust of wind to blow them down. So we've got that could bring down a limb. And then when you have wet snow all on a branch and then you get a gust, a new branch could crack. So I do think there will be outages. I hope they're not as many as there were last week. But with heavy, wet spring snow, those are the parameters that you need to get big outage events. So it's very possible that we could have another big outage event. That is the latest. This is Tuesday again. Fighting off a cold right now. Every once in a while I have to this urge to cough, but I almost had it there, but I didn't. And we'll do another one of these tomorrow. So keep checking back on the latest to see if the snow map adjusts a little bit here and there. Have a great day, everybody.